The adaptability demon of BLUELOCK Isagi versus the leader of the generation of miracles Akashi Seijiro, a matchup like none you've seen thus far. A battle between two geniuses that do nothing but control everyone and everything on the field. Whether be it through their Albert Einstein level of IQ or through their broken ocular abilities, the name of the game for these two beasts is to devour every existence on the field. However, what would happen if these two titans clash? How would they fare against one another in a real game, and who will be controlling the other? Well, that's what we are going to find out in today's video, where we are going to look at each player's stats, abilities, and explore their best feats to determine who would come on top. But first, seeing that both play different sports and are from different shows and different universes, we have no option but to even the odds and bridge the gap between Isagi and Akashi for the sake of clarity. I'm mainly speaking physically here, because in Kuroko no Basket the rules of physicality are very ambiguous, both generally speaking, but especially when it comes to speed. For instance, we know that Silver is much faster than Aomini, but in one sequence he was able to be like 10 times faster and match him and Kunigami while they were still hanging in the air. And this is just one example. The show is full of these nonsensical moments that make it hard to judge where the cast stands when it comes to physicality. Akashi! I mean, don't get me wrong, this takes nothing away from the show. Kuroko no Basket is still one of my favorite shows ever. However, for the sake of this video and for the sake of a matchup, this is going to make things a little bit complicated. And it's not like BLUELOCK doesn't suffer from this. However, in BLUELOCK, this is kept to a minimum and often doesn't really break the power system. For instance, the writer always keeps speed in mind. An example of this would be in the Manshine City game. The only ones shown remotely close to Chigiri and reacting to him were Kurona, Kaiser, and Yuki, all players with very high speed stats. While Isagi, on the other hand, even with his metavision and his perfect positioning, struggled to keep up with Chigiri once he accelerated. And so, again, for the sake of clarity, we are going to bridge the gap here. And for this, we're not just going to compare Isagi to Akashi. Rather, we are going to compare the whole generation of miracles to BLUELOCK. This way we can make a better, more consistent judgment. And so let's ask the question, where does the generation of miracles fall when it comes to physicality? Now, we have to understand that the generation of miracles are considered prodigies. The 5 members, Kagami, Haizaki, Nash, and Silver, are monsters among monsters. However, there is a catch, or at least for the Japanese players, in that their bodies cannot keep up with their talents, like we've seen in the Kishi vs Aomini matchup, where Kishi almost broke his ankle trying to copy Aomini. This means that for their age, their bodies are pushed to the limit. Better yet, they are the best of the best. This automatically put them in the bar range of strength when we lowball them. However, I believe players like Murasakibara, Kishi, and even Kagami are on Kunigami's level or even surpass him when it comes to pure physicality. Speed-wise, it's a different story. You see, BLUELOCK doesn't lump the whole physicality in one basket. Instead, we have different attributes, for example strength, jumping ability, and speed. And so for speed, we could say that Chigiri would be on the level of Silver, seeing that both are the best of their respective universes. Of course, I'm excluding the pros here when it comes to BLUELOCK, but anyways, given that Silver is on Chigiri's level, I would put Aomini, who is the fastest of the generation of miracles, on Kaiser's level. He could definitely react to Silver, however he cannot match him, and thus I think Kaiser's speed fits perfectly. And of course, for jumping ability, I would put Murasakibara on Aryu's level. However, that's not really going to be interesting for us today, since both Akashi and Isagi aren't really high flyers. In case you're thinking, Kuroko no Basket is definitely superior to BLUELOCK when it comes to physicality, because we've seen some insane shit from these players, especially Aomini. Well, I have to remind you that cops could not even shoot at Kaiser due to his speed, and so I really did not want to push things out of proportions here, and thus this is the system that we will be working with today. First, we know that Akashi is the weakest of the generation of miracles. This, however, does not take anything from him. He remains a member of the generation of miracles. He remains an insane player physically speaking. You have to remember that he was the leader even before of his Emperor Eye, and so he definitely was able to match them up. Of course, he lost to Murasakibara, but that wasn't really a fair fight because one-on-one really favors the physically gifted player. But in any case, I would still put him at Shido, Yuki, and Otoya level of speed, and when it comes to physicality, I'd say he would match Rin, Sai, and of course Ryo. This kinda makes it obvious who wins the physical battle. Isagi is nowhere near any of this. He's not fast enough to match him and he's not physically gifted to threaten him. But of course, and as always, Isagi never excelled when it comes to physicality. However, for fun, let's see where Isagi would stand in Kuroko no Basket when it comes to physicality. In the NER specifically, Isagi has pushed his physicality to its maximum. However, he still isn't the best by any means. This kinda reminds me of a player in Kuroko no Basket, which is Himuro, Kagami's friend. He was a player who pushed his physicality and his techniques to the limit, yet he was not able to break the ceiling and enter the Generation of Miracles level, and thus I would say Isagi would fit there. Definitely worse than Kiyoshi and the other uncrowned kings, however better than the other players like Kuroko and the eagled eye guy that I keep forgetting his name. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, enough with physicality, it's time for the really interesting stuff. It's time for their abilities and weapons. Now usually when I am making these matchups, I go over each player individually. However, seeing that they are from different universes, I am trying to bridge the gap as much as possible. And as such, we will talk about their abilities simultaneously, and at the same time judge how they fare against one another. Now, we've said that Isagi has no chance beating Akashi when it comes to physicality. However, as we've seen from the main character of the basketball show, perfect positioning and the ability to divert attention goes a long way in compensating for physicality. However, I'm going to be frank with you guys, Kuroko off-the-ball movements and off-the-ball plays are nowhere near Isagi's level. I know that the whole premise of the show revolves around Kuroko's off-the-ball movements. However, Isagi is on a different level. Not only does he have perfect positioning, not only does he have diversion, but also he has Takao's Hawkeye in Metavision. And to be honest, I think Metavision was inspired from this type of vision specifically. Speaking of Takao, he was easily tricked by Akashi in their game. By intentionally slowing himself down, Akashi was able to trick Takao to thinking that's his maximum speed. And then when he bursts into the image, Takao had no way of responding to that. And here I gotta say it, this will not work on Isagi at all. Not only does Isagi has a better, more effective Hawkeye, he actually has his egocentrism and his adaptability, which means that no matter what Akashi is trying to do, Isagi will try to adapt, and because he will be understanding what he is thinking, it will be very different than what happened to Takao. Now, if you haven't noticed, I've been only talking about Isagi here, because honestly, I was trying to save Akashi's broken ability. Of course, I'm talking about the Emperor Eye, which, if you thought Metavision is scary and OP, you have seen nothing. The Emperor Eye is just broken, simple as that. No word could describe it but broken. The ability to see into the future, and not only your play or your opponent's play, but the whole field's play, is just unfair, man. This alone really negates Isagi's adaptability completely. Sure, whatever Akashi is trying to do, Isagi will adapt to that. However, that adaptability will be useless. Simply put, because Akashi will see the future and being faster and stronger, he will definitely react to whatever Isagi throws at him. And in reality, that's only half the equation. In fact, let's be frank, even egocentrism doesn't work here, because even if Isagi reads Akashi, whatever he does from there, Seijiro will simply see it and he will obviously react to it. It will be much like Murasakibara said it, Akashi's eye negates everything, whether be it on offense or on defense. Whatever Isagi is trying to do, Akashi will simply see it and he will simply counter it. Now, whether we want to admit it or not, when Isagi is pressed, he excels in controlling the field. He excels at inventing plays that rely on his teammates' powerful points and his opponent's weak points to create a new playing style that might take Akashi by surprise, because Isagi will be controlling things from the shadows and never really facing Akashi head on, and I can see this definitely happening due to his adaptability. However, here we reach a little bit of a dilemma. The rules for football are different than the rules for basketball. You see, the basketball court is much smaller and the players are packed together. Long passes are kinda useless if you think about it. Basketball would be the perfect environment for Isagi. A lot of things happening in a small area and at a rapid pace would take Isagi's off-the-ball movements to a new height, because it becomes very easy to trick a player and to shake them off, and thus Isagi will have a very high chance to score. Now we have no basis on how Isagi's shooting would be, however, judging by how effective his direct shot when he is free, if he can manage that, we can assume he can score most of the time. Yet we reach a problem. You see, at the end of the movie, Akashi's Emperor Eye evolved, and now it can see the future of the whole field, not only Akashi and his opponent. Which means whatever Isagi is trying, whatever he's trying to pull from the shadows, Akashi will simply see it, and he will simply counter it. If you remember how Nash was in that game, they literally had no answer to him because he could see everything, until of course both Akashi and Kuroko's Emperor Eyes evolved. And so here, unfortunately, it's going to be a massacre. For basketball, Akashi is the definite winner. However, think about it, how would Akashi actually fare in a football game? Now, it is true that the basketball setting really favors Isagi's playing style. However, football is his territory, so how would Akashi actually fare? Well, one-on-one, Akashi would be near damn impossible to stop due to his Emperor Eye. He could simply see anything and just react to it. And also, because he can see the future of the whole field, he can see where players are going to be, and so he can deliver even more perfect passes. And because the whole field is bigger, there is a higher chance that his ball will go through. And even when it comes to him scoring, because he can see where the defenders are going to be, he can trick them off easily and then find himself free. Now, if you notice, this is something that Isagi is doing right now. However, he's doing it through prediction, not actually seeing the future. Isagi is able to predict what the defenders are going to do through metavision, egocentrism, and his adaptability. And because the field is so big, and because a lot of moving parts, and because the ball could come out of anywhere, Akashi would really have a hard time reacting to Isagi if he's not man-marking him. And of course, it is obvious that he can't mark him 100% of the time, and so Isagi actually here has a fighting chance. However, when it comes to him stopping Akashi, that's just not happening. Whatever he's trying to do, whatever he's trying to predict, much like in basketball, Akashi will simply nullify it. And from this, it seems that when we took things to football, things got a little bit closer. However, the winner is still clearly going to be Akashi. Now, if you notice, I did not really include Akashi in the zone, and that's because it's just gonna be an overkill. You see, Isagi is insane because he can predict the future. However, Akashi actually sees the future, and prediction can never beat actually seeing, and for that he dominates him completely. And from this, him dominating both in basketball and football, the sole winner and the better player of these two is none other than Akashi Seijiro. It's just that his Emperor Eye is that broken. Remember how much Isagi improved just with having metavision due to it being that OP? Well, the Emperor Eye is far better, and it would make Akashi far more insane, and the obvious better player of our matchup today. However, with this we reach the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please let me know what do you think of this crossover. But until next time, thank you for watching.